Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Sean Hogg, as you may remember, was the young man who committed an appalling crime against an underage child and then who walked free from court because the SNP says, being under 25, he doesn't know what he's doing. This is the same SNP who wants to give 16-year-olds the vote and says that 8-year-olds have the ability to decide whether they want to be boys and girls and take the appropriate medication. It's a very weird setup. Anyway, Hogg was back in court. He has changed addresses, changed his name, and because of all this has been given some very, very tight restrictions. However, he's still not in prison. It is still an artist of women walking free on the streets. But the judge is protecting him somehow by saying that no one is allowed to know his new address, which I think is a shame. But since everyone knows what he looks like, it won't take long before he's recognised. Anyway, we'll have a look at this article and see what's going to happen with this man who likes to touch children and who is walking free because of the SNP's strange rules. Here goes. So, child Ara Sean Hogg flees his home after dodging jail for his attack amid a sentencing backlash. And the 21-year-old was appearing back in court as new restrictions were placed upon him, while the judge questioned why he had not been made aware that this Ara of children had changed locations. And there we are, just to make sure everyone sees his face, everyone knows what he looks like. So an Ara of children who controversially escaped a prison term has fled his home amid the backlash of him not being locked up. So where he lived in Lanarkshire, again, what is it with Lanarkshire? He's had a terrible time. Oh, what a shame. The locals have been up in arms, have been giving him a lot of grief, and so he has controversially run away. He shouldn't have done that, of course. He's under a court order. So anyway, Hogg, 21, walked away free from court in April, having been convicted of these attacks on a 13-year-old girl in Dalkeith Country Park in Midlothian in 2018. The decision by Judge Lord Lake sparked widespread condemnation, and still does, from the young victim, the campaigners, and as well as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. She was famously said about this and saying it was basically the courts had given young men under the age of 25 a get out of jail free card. They could more or less do what they wanted to children, knowing they weren't going to go to prison because a precedent has now been set. And if that's what justice is in Scotland, then Scotland doesn't have justice. Anyway, the judge told Hogg last month that had he been over 25 at the time, he would have been facing a jail term of up to 5 years, and he should still be facing a jail term of up to 25 years. There's no way 5 years, even that is enough. That's 2.5 years for doing this to a child, effectively. And so, no, it isn't long enough. It should be a lot longer. And I don't care how young he is. He knew what he was doing. Bang, off he goes. Anyway, he said, prison does not lead me to believe that this will contribute to your rehabilitation. Hogg was instead made the subject of a community payback order, a CPO, and was told to carry out 200 hours or 270 hours of unpaid work, a decision prosecutors are now appealing as unduly lenient. Hogg was back in the High Court in Glasgow on Tuesday. That's today, and of course he turned up wearing a face mask and sunglasses, seemingly trying to avoid being recognised. But fortunately there were people there who recognised him. The hearing took place for a review of his CPO. Social workers wanted to impose further restrictions on Hogg to monitor him, having been spared a jail term. Easy to monitor someone when they're in a jail cell. It was reported last month that Hogg was apparently living under a new identity after changing his name to Sean K. And there are various reasons why they do this, and it isn't just the shame they feel. It's because there's certain restrictions under certain names that if you don't say, it's easy for you to disappear into the system. People are, have done this, and so it shouldn't be allowed. It should never be allowed. The claim sparked fears that he could go undetected in any new relationships with unsuspecting partners. Defence KC Donald Findlay again represented Hogg at the hearing. He stated the measures sought were so restrictive it is almost equivalent to a crime prevention order under another guise. Well, so what? You're his defence lawyer. You did a good job in keeping that bastard out of prison. That's the very least of your worries. If he's he's been a bit restricted in his movements, has he? It's been a bit, it's a bit upsetting for him. Think about the child, and then look at your client and say, who was more put out by what had happened? I mean, for God's sake. Anyway, Mr. Findlay also told the court there'd been some localised issues after Hogg was sentenced in April. He'd have been safe in prison. Well, no, he wouldn't, would he? That's a shame. Anyway, the advocate added that no longer is applicable, given he's now what's called, Firth of the jurisdiction, he says. I think he means outside that jurisdiction now. As far as I'm aware, Firth is like an inlet, isn't it? I don't know if there's any other meaning for it. But anyway, he's living in a place with family members. Hogg's previous address on the court papers was Hamilton in Lanarkshire. It won't be there anymore. His new location was not revealed during the hearing. Well, they're not going to reveal it because the people of his new location might get a bit upset that they're living next to someone who does that to children, although they now all know what he looks like. And they know his new name. Excellent. Sean Kay, in case you missed it. Sean Kay. Lord Lake said he had not been aware that there had been a change of locality, so this is the judge hadn't been told. Mr. Findlay stated Hogg had completed 30 of the 270 hours of unpaid work so far, and that South Lanarkshire Council was helping with the transfer of the order to the authority where he is now based. Lord Lake went on to impose the extra measures which Hogg must adhere to while out in the streets. But they're still free. He's still out on the streets, which is the important line there. This is a man that is a danger to children and yet walking the streets because of the SNP. Make no two bones about it. The judge himself at the time said he had no option but to do it because of the guidance handed down by the then Justice Secretary Humza Yousaf, a man who apparently doesn't want people who do awful things to children to go to jail. Anyway, this includes the sex attacker having to flag up any new partner or friends he makes, as well as anyone he may be living with. The judge said if you enter into anything that you may consider a friendship, you must inform your supervising officer. Intimate relationships can be interpreted as romantic or sexual relationships. Enter into any of those, or even starting one, and you must tell your supervising officer. Hogg must pass on all personal details of any of these individuals. Lord Lake said you would have to provide the identity and all contact information, name, address, email, phone number, social media tags, anything. Another measure is that Hogg cannot give out his address details unless, by law, he is asked or on approval of his supervising officer. He must also stay clear of the victim and her family, as well as report any new job he has. Lord Lake asked Hogg, do you agree to comply with the requirements of this order in full? Yes, Your Honour. He said, of course he's going to say yes, because anything's better than going to prison with big boys that would take him and do to him what he did to a child. And hopefully do it 3 or 4 times a day for the entire sentence. He'd come out with something. Well, he'd go in with one of them and he'd come out with a fucking hula hoop. Honestly. But it'd be no less than he deserved, I feel. But yeah, I mean, the fact is though, you have a judge that could have jailed him but chose not to. You have an SNP Justice Minister by the name of Humza Yousaf at the time, who brought in these rules to make sure that under 25s could get away with this kind of thing, and it all stinks. And now he's complaining, at least his barrister is complaining that these things are a bit restrictive. Well, if you weren't doing the crime, you wouldn't be doing the time. Anyway, I'm going to round up and come up. Now, I must point out I do have sympathy. Not with him, of course, but with the victim. How can that young girl sit there and know that this man is out on the street, walking around after doing what he did? It is not on. It really isn't on. People like this need to be in jail. And anyone who says that they don't needs to be questioned. Why can you think? What makes you think you can do this to a child and walk away free? Obviously, Humza Yousaf finds it perfectly acceptable. But then this is the SNP. When you look at some of the things they find acceptable, I'm surprised that it's as tame as that. To be fair, to be honest, but they're all the same, aren't they? They all just want to damage and make the world shitty with little things like this, and where you can't even protect your own children, or at least even if you could, these guys they get you found them, you've prosecuted them. and they still walk the streets. They don't do 1 day in jail. What is the point? What is the point? What is the point of the police? What is the point of the courts? What is the point of the justice system? I think social justice may start seeing a comeback. There may be a little bit of vigilantism. Who knows? We must all stay vigilant. Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, guard your children from wankers like that, and goodbye.